Chaksurunmilitam yana tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam yana bhutare Swayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swaparantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kata Radhakanta Namostute Jayatam Surito Pango Mama Manir Matirgati Matsavashuparam Boja Radha Madana Mohanam Sriman Rasarasaram Vivamsi Vadakarsan Vinayashan Herbako Gopinata Sriyasaram Divyadvindaranya Padrumada Srimad Ratnagada Shimashanishto Shri Shri Radha Shira Govinda Prestalavi Seva Manashmanami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Chajigari Taya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namo Mangalang Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Gudarajacha Mangalam Padirikaksho Mangarayatano Hari Om Narayana Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodayate Om Mahadevi Cha Vidmahi Vishnu Padniti Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodayate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Sare Sri Hari Pare Namastubhyam Dayadite Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhavindhavanishare Vishavana Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Prem Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwara Guru Shaksha Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Durgamay Pati Mayanda Skarapati Krishna Guru Shakripa Yasananda Shantu Shantovaram Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Cheva Naruttamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tito Jayodiram Namo Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sanyavadi Praskata Desanani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Well. Thanks for joining us, Gary, Montana, Rakesh, Raghava, Manasaganga, Gene, Rob on Zoom. We had to miss yesterday because Sunday was not only the Japathon, but it was also the Sunday feast. So we did double duty. We had to take a day to kind of catch our breath. For the Japathon, the Spanish Fork probably did its lowest total ever, 654 rounds, I think. But the good news is the charge was led by two young devotees, Sophie and Tucker, who chanted 64 rounds each. That was a very heartening. And on the other end of the scale, Salt Lake City Temple did more rounds than it's ever been done before. They broke all records. I believe they did 1,354. They did twice what we did. We did a little over 1 million. They did a little over 2 million. So close to 4 million names of God were chanted to begin the new year. Pretty good way to start the new year, I would think. Rakesh and his family chanted a whole bunch of rounds. I think Rakesh and Bhavna both chanted 80 each, if I'm not mistaken. He's on with us today. Govinda Dev chanted 80 rounds too, I believe. Or no, he chanted 50 rounds. And then who else do we have here? Brent chanted 40 rounds. Thank you, all of you, for doing the best service that you could do to yourself and to your family and to the greater population by chanting the names of God to kick off the new year. One is God. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purna. So one is God's number, because there's only one. God means one. We live in Mormon Utah. The Mormons sometimes talk about becoming God. You can't become God because God means one. So the position is already occupied. There's no vacancy. But I know what they mean. They mean we can become demigods. We can become semi-divine. We can become godlike. We can become blessed by God and therefore become godly or godlike. That's possible. That's desirable. That's the imperative of the human form of life, to associate with God and to become not God, but like God. And when you become like God, we switch words. When you become like God, we don't say you become God. We say you become demigod. So at least we don't get into hot water with mainstream Christianity for that reason. We might get into hot water with them for other reasons, but we don't get into hot water with them for trying to become God. We're not God makers. We might be demigod makers, but more than anything else, we're devotee makers. The demigods, in fact, wish they could take birth on this middle earthly planetary system because it's the best platform from which to go back to home, back to God. The lower planets are too miserable, too hellish. It's too much suffering to make progress in spiritual life. The higher planets are too intoxicating, too much fun, too many girls, too many beautiful, beautiful locations. But the middle planetary systems, which we inhabit, are ideal for going back to home, back to Godhead. So one is the digit, which refers to the Lord. He's the one sole, supreme person than whom no one is greater than equal. Nobody comes up to Krishna. Even Shiva is like 98% of Krishna. Brahma has 96% of the qualities of Krishna. So and so Vishnu, 98% of the qualities of Krishna. But only Krishna has the beauty, the sweetness, the planet which is unique to Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan, the opulences of Krishna, and the best thing about Krishna is his wonderful, wonderful coterie, pantheon of devotees in neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parentalhood, and conjugal affection. Well, that's my excuse for not having joined you yesterday on Monday. It was the aftermath of the Japathon. Now, I also have to say that I won't be able to join you tomorrow either. For many years, Katie Reese, when she'd been teaching at Diamond Fork Middle School in Spanish Fork, she and her co-teacher, Vicky, invited me. Oh, it's been, I don't know, quite a few years now, probably 10 years. They invite me to take a whole day's worth of classes, 7 classes from 7:45 in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Vicky's retired and Katie's moved to Springville Junior High School, but the tradition continues. Tomorrow, Wednesday, January 4th, I'm obliged to be at Springville Junior High School by 7:45. So I'll have to beg off on Wisdom Wednesday. This will be the only session that we'll have together this week, with the exception of the weekend, of course. So here we go. We started out with Brihasura, spent quite a few sessions on Brihasura, and we're still going to quote Brihasura one last time as a launching pad to get us to Ambarish. Our title today is The Character of Ambarish Maharaj. So here's where we start from. Brihasura, practically at the moment of leaving his body, he doesn't wish for taking a higher birth in the heavenly planets. He doesn't envy Indra with all his longevity and higher standard of living. He pities Indra because Indra is afraid of losing the sense pleasure, the level of sense pleasure he has. Even though Indra wins the battle, even though Indra kills Brihasura and retains his position as king of the higher planets within this material world, Prabhupada describes that Indra is the loser and Brihasura is the winner. So why? Brihasura is the winner because of his faith in and his hankering to get back to a position of devotional service to Krishna. Let's see how much longing there is in this verse. Aham hare tava pade kamuna dasana dasu bhavitashmada manashmada tere paderganam tam grinita vakama karodikayam. Oh Lord, aham hare tava padaika dasha mula. Dasha means the devotees, the servants of the Lord. Padaika means feet. Aham hare tava padaika. When will I regain the service of the lotus feet of your devotees? Dasana, dasana, bhavatashmi boya. I don't even presume to be a servant of the Lord or a servant of the direct servants of the Lord. All I want to do is slot in there somewhere as a servant of a servant of a servant of servant, 100 times removed, the servant of the Lord. And in that position of humility, manash madeto paderganams te, I will assume the quality of remembrance of Krishna. I will be able to always think, being engaged in the service of the bhaktas, the satams, the only business. Satam prashangam avirya sambido, satam prashangam. The satams are those pure-hearted souls. Prashangam, who derives satisfaction and bliss to santi cha ramanti cha, katayan taschamam nityam. always discussing and conversing amongst one another the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the association of those who love the Lord, you'll never be out of remembrance of the beloved. It's a fact. That's a fact. The seriousness with which one wants to execute devotional service is measured by the eagerness that one has to associate with the devotees of the Lord. If you want to make money, how do you make a serious move towards making money? Well, you get your MBA. You go to that section of the college where they teach you how to make money. And then you go into Goldman Sachs, or you go into Morgan Stanley or Whittier. And you associate with people whose forte is making money. Whatever it is that you want to achieve in life, you seek the association of those who are further advanced than you. Prabhupada says this verse, wherein Vritasura prays only one thing at the time of death. He doesn't pray for liberation, doesn't pray to become like Indra, aristocracy, good birth, good looks. He only prays to be a servant of the servant of the servant, das and das and das and das and das, of the servant of the lotus feet of the Lord. And Prabhupada said this verse is the sum and substance of devotional service. One must aspire not even to be a servant, but to be a servant of the servant. One must have this attitude of humility, and says, even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Krishna himself, when he came down, Vairaga Bija Nija Bhakti Yoganam Shiksharta Meka Parusha Paranam, it says the teacher sometimes, in order to show the student, will sit down at one of those little tiny student desks, take the hand of the student, and guide the hand of the student making cursive letters, say, for instance. And you might make a mistake in thinking that, oh, the teacher has become the student because the teacher is sitting at the student's desk, crammed in one of those little tiny desks and writing cursive. You would be making a big mistake if you thought the teacher had become the student and the teacher was learning cursive. No, in order to teach the student cursive, the teacher has come down to the level of the student. Similarly, in order to teach us devotional service, Krishna himself came down from the spiritual world, appeared on earth 500 years ago in West Bengal as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us the method of developing love of God. And one of the main things he did was although he was God, he accepted the service of a bona fide spiritual master. He took initiation from Ishwara Puri. Another of his Diksha gurus was Madhavendra Puri. That was his Parampara. So the meaning of let me become a servant of a servant of a servant, the meaning of it, how that translates and how one makes a serious move towards making one's life successful is that one must accept a spiritual master. Tajman Guru Prapadyaham Jignashu Saramutara. If you're seriously inquisitive, is to know the absolute truth, that personality who is all knowledge, all bliss, and eternity, then you have to. There is no option other Tajman Guru Prapadya Jignashu Saram. For those who are seriously inquisitive about the meaning of life and solving the problems of life, says one must approach a guru who is coming in disciplic succession, and under the direction of that guru, one will engage all of one's properties, mind, body, and words in the service of the Lord. And being thus engaged, one comes to the liberated platform immediately. Jivan mukta sauchate. One is considered liberated who, even now, at the present moment, in this current body, is engaged mind, body, and words in the service of the Lord. It is said that one should be engaged in physical activity under the order of the spiritual master. The mind should think of the Lord incessantly. One's pacham, one's words should be engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. And if one is thus engaged, body, mind, and words, one's life is successful. This brings us to Ambarish Maharaj. There's no better example. Although the name of his spiritual master is not mentioned, the fact that he has a spiritual master is quite obvious because of his 100% engagement in the service of the Lord. There's nothing more clear in the life of Maharaj Ambarish than that he was under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. I'm just going to read the whole Sanskrit here. It's about 12 or 15 verses, and then give you the quite lengthy translation. It's going to be worth it. Savaya mana Krishna paradavindara vasamsi Vaikuntha gunarnavanana karo haro mandir marjanam sutam chakata satkatoriyam Munkunda lingaya darshano dusho tadbricha gatash parsha anga shanganam gurihanam chatat pada saroja surabe Shimaturash Rashanam Tarpitem, Paro Haro Chitra Parar Sharpaname, Shuro Rishikaya, Para Bindavane, Kamam Nadasha, Natu Kamaya Kamya, Yadi Utrabha, Janashrayarati. Maharaj Ambarish always engaged his mind in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, his ears hearing the words spoken by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita or about Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam, his eyes, akshno phalam tadisha darshanam him jiva phalam tadisha kirtan gadrashagam kirtanam hi tano phalam tadisha gadrashagam sudurabat bhagavati loke. The perfection of seeing is to see the form of the Lord. The perfection of association is to rub shoulders with the devotees of the Lord. The perfection of the tongue is to chant the glories of the Lord. It is said that he also used to visit the Krishna temples in Mathura and Vrindavan, engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees, and sense of smell, Tashadavina Nayanashik and Jaka Talashi Makaranda Vaiku, in smelling the fragrance of Tulsi offered to the Lord, his tongue, Jivara Shurupa, Jivara, Jiva Phala, Vishaya Sagari, and tasting the Lord's prasadam, his legs, in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord, his head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord 24 hours a day. Indeed, Maharaj Ambarish never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service in various ways. This is how one increases attachment to the Lord and becomes completely free from all material desires. One engages oneself as an instrument of the bona fide spiritual master. When Sukadeva Goswami, in the beginning of this section of the Bhagavatam in the 9th canto, describes Maharaj Ambarish, one of the things he says is Mahabhag. Mahabhag means extremely fortunate. There wasn't anything that he didn't have. You might aspire for beauty. It says his beauty was super excellent. His beauty was even described by the adjective abhyam. His beauty did not fade. He didn't get wrinkles. He did not get gray hair. He had unfading, super excellent movie star type beauty. He had sovereignty, not just over family or state or region. He had Saptadvipa. He had sovereignty over the whole world. Basically, he ruled everything there was in the known world at that time. He did not have to worry about mortgages. He didn't have to worry about making payments. He didn't have to worry about his credit card history. There wasn't anything over which he did not have oversight. You know, he's fortunate in the sense that he didn't have to worry about old age or fading bodily beauty, aches and pains, the creakings of old age. Bob Hope once said, "I'm not getting old, I'm just getting louder." Maharaj Pariksit did not have to worry about getting louder, nor did he have to ever worry about becoming impecunious. We talked a couple of weeks ago about one of the children of Nelson B. Rockefeller, one of the richest people in the history of the modern world. One of his daughters became neurotic, totally obsessed by the conviction that she would die penniless. She was haunted day and night, even though she was the daughter of the richest man in the world. He left her several fortunes. There was no chance that she would ever die homeless or poor, poverty-stricken, and yet she was absolutely convinced that would be the fact. And so even though she was the daughter of the richest man in the world, and that was the last thing she could have worried about, it was foremost in her mind. She couldn't get rid of it. It was a mental illness. Maharaj Ambarish didn't have to worry about anything because he had it all. And I'm not just speaking metaphorically or symbolically. He had it all. None of us have it all. None of us have that level of fortune. Even in our own families, we don't get to have our way. There's subjective reality, and then there's objective reality. Subjective reality means that you're number one, you're the most important person. You're the only one that exists. In fact, some people feel that they're the only ones that exist, and everybody is here as their pawn. And yet, yet that does not play out in objective reality. Soldiers say the best laid battle plans last only as long until the first shot is fired, and then it all goes chaotic, and you have to improvise. So every individual thinks of themselves subjectively as the supreme controller, the supreme owner. They think that their ideas are the best, their insights are the most penetrating. Everybody should listen to them. That's their battle plan, that I'll move all the pieces around on my chessboard, and that lasts only as long as until the first shot is fired. As soon as you ask, honey, could you pick this up on your way to the grocery store? You can't even get your wife to pick it. Or she might say she picked it up, and you come home after a hard day's work. Did you get it? She says, oh, I forgot. A definition of this world for most of us who are not devotees of the Lord on the level of Ambarish Maharaj, this world is defined by 3 words, B-U-T. I have a good life, but I don't have the best job. I have a good job, but I don't have a good husband. I have a good husband and I have a good job, but the children are just, oh my gosh, they're driving me nuts. I have a good family, but I have a health problem. There were no buts in Maharaj Ambarish's life. There wasn't a single pinprick. There wasn't any thorn in his side whatsoever, because he was the greatest devotee of the Lord. The Lord personally offered him protection. The Lord personally lived with him. Aham bhakta pada sadhavodiyam sadharamriyam maranatamaniyam te byo managapi. You give what you have, what little you have, to the Lord, and the Lord considers himself your debtor. He considers himself your debtor. We have to do our part. Take my life, Lord, and let it be consecrated to thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless place. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for thee. Take my lips and let them sing always only for my King. Take my mouth and let it be filled with messages from thee. Take my silver and my gold, not a mite would I withhold. Take my intellect, use every power as thou shalt choose. Take my will and make it thine, it shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, my Lord, it is thy royal throne. Take my love, my Lord, I pour at thy feet its treasure store. Take myself, and I will be ever only all for thee. This, in a nutshell, was the character and disposition of Maharaj Ambarish. Everything was dedicated, subordinated to the service of the Lord. He didn't have political rivals. He didn't have enemies. He didn't have uncontrollable children. He didn't have domestic problems. There wasn't a single but in his life. He lived a life that we could only dream about. In fact, it would be beyond our imagination to try to imagine the level of favor that Maharaj Ambarish enjoyed. And what was his daily activities? 100% engaged in serving the Lord. He didn't even have to rule his kingdom. It seems like he did not even have to take time out for the mundane business of ruling his kingdom. He had qualified generals, qualified counselors, ministers who took care of all of that for him. He did the main thing. He kept the main thing the main thing. It is said, seek first the kingdom of God and everything else will be taken care of. Someone might think, well, this Maharaj, he was kind of spaced out. He's off there in the temple doing things when his kingdom is falling apart, his enemies are threatening at the borders, the treasury is being ransacked and plundered by thieves and rogues in the form of ministers. No, because of the sterling nature of his character, because he set the highest example of using this human form of life, not for temporary material gain, but for going back to home, back to Godhead. It appears that that filtered throughout all of the inhabitants of his kingdom. He had ministers, he had generals, he had financiers and accountants of the highest level of integrity. No one in his kingdom, taking their lead from his book, would have ever thought of taking advantage. No one wanted control of worldly things any more than Maharaj Ambarish. No one thought of Maharaj Ambarish as naive, but rather they recognized that he was taking point. He was spearheading the march back to home, back to Godhead. We, on the other hand, non-conscious, non-God-centered, tiny little Ravan, so to speak, we're all trying to have control in our little area of influence. You know, we might have one wife and two kids, and we're just tearing our hair out every day long. Why won't they listen to me? Why won't they do what they say? If they just did what I said, everything would be great. This is the subjective reality. But the objective reality is there's a but every time you try to exert control, because you're not the controller and you don't have the last word, and you have your own problems also. The fact is that objective reality and subjective reality are like a million miles away. It is said that in order to learn humility, you have to learn humiliation. So how many times a day in our little tiny area in which we try to exert control do we experience dead ends, flat out refusals, disrespect? This is all in order to teach us humility. Humiliation is the road towards humility. Another point is that although Maharaj Ambarish had success to the ultimate degree, didn't get in his head. There are different areas like wealth, like influence, family members, sovereignty. There are all kinds of different areas that have to do with wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Now, if we get even a little wealth, even a little extra money in the bank, it just goes to our head. We think of ourselves as superior. We think of ourselves as better than those who didn't get the promotion at the office. If we go to the gym and we have a few more muscles to show off, we roll up our sleeves and we flex our muscles and we stand in front of the mirror, how quickly the slightest gain in any of these areas, wealth, strength, fame, knowledge, beauty, renunciation, how quickly we get swell-headed about it, how quickly it gets into our head. So unless we're cautious and conscious, we're going to get negatively affected by material gifts. This is why Vrikasura had said earlier, Pumsam kilakanti diyashakanam yad sampado dibi bumoda shayaha nadyatya dveshu begadir madir kalabhyashanam shampaya shaham. Krishna is the husband of the goddess of fortune. When you worship Krishna, his consort, the god of fortune, can give you any amount of opulences, including elevation to the heavenly planets, where you have a lifespan of hundreds of thousands of years. You're untouched virtually by birth, death, disease, and old age. You take birth full blown without all the pangs of childhood. You get sick and die only in the last year of your 100,000s of years. Otherwise, up to 999,000 years, you live in the full vigor and bloom of youth. The goddess of fortune does not award these kinds of benedictions to devotees because of the danger of it going to their heads. It's almost universally true that when we get some opulence, we get some arrogance as well. So often Krishna withholds opulences from his devotees in order that they learn humility. So Krishna It's God's divine arrangement that our wife doesn't always listen to us, that our kids don't always listen to us, that they don't listen to us at the office, that other people flip us off in traffic, even though we did nothing wrong. That's God's arrangement to teach us prakriti kurmani gunaka hankara vimura, to get rid of the false ego, which tries to be and thinks of itself as being the controller. And when you hear about great souls who are devotees, like Maharaj Parikshit and Maharaj Ambarish and Maharaj Prithu and Prahlad Maharaj, there are three effects on the consciousness. They're called Suddhi Karan, Buddhi Karan, and Riddhi Karan. Karan means changes which come about. Srimatam Shrakata Krishna Punya Shravanam Ridan Tashtu Bodhini Vidunoti Saritsaram. The first thing that happens is all the subjective misconceptions, all the fantasies of the false ego to control, that one is the controller, they gently get dissipated. Kechid Kevada Bhakta Vasare Agamdu Niharam Yavashka. The way that the sun rising in the morning dissipates the fog is very gentle. It's quite gradual. It doesn't disrupt this fog. It doesn't disturb the fog. But before you know it, the fog is gone. Even a morning that was, you couldn't see the hand in front of your face, 6 a.m. By 11, everything is bright and clear and sunny and happy and upbeat. That's the effect that the sun has on the early morning fog. Similarly, hearing and chanting about the great devotees of the Lord, how they're serving the servants of the servant of the servant of the servant, has a gentle effect of dissolving the fog of ignorance, the fog of confusion within the heart. It's purifying. And we find in Maharaj Ambarish a clear thinking, totally focused, purified living being. The second effect is Buddhi Karan. We get a sharpening of the intellect. People say, I need to add Krishna consciousness to my life, like I need a hole in the head. I got the kids. I got the job. I got to keep in shape by going to the gym. I got a commute that you wouldn't believe. I've got my parents that have to, I've got so much on my plate now. The last thing I need is to add one more thing, going to the temple on Sunday or Saturday, chanting rounds, offering my food, donating to the temple. I'm stretched so thin. I don't think I can fit that in. Purification of intellect means to identify, to discriminate the difference between the things which are urgent and the things which are important. And if you think about it with clarified vision, the things which are urgent are rarely the things which are most important. It is often the urgent things that push out on a daily schedule the important things. When your intellect becomes purified, you rearrange your priorities. You keep the main thing the main thing. Seek first the kingdom of God. Look at Ambarish. He simply served the Lord with every faculty that was available to him. Everything else took care of itself. The kingdom was nicely maintained. And wasn't just a small kingdom, a state, a province. It was Saptadweep. It was the entire, Saptadweep means the 7 islands. Those are the continents: Iceland, Antarctica, Europe, Africa, Asia, North and South America. Count them, 7. Maharaj Ambarish was Lord over Saptadweep. There wasn't any part of the earth over which he did not have sovereignty at that time. And it was all run first class, not directly by him, but Krishna took care of it. Take care of the big thing, and the small things will automatically fall into place. So you don't have time for Krishna consciousness. You don't have the extra money to donate. You don't have the, you don't have the tools to engage in Krishna consciousness. No, you start chanting Hare Krishna, associated with devotees. You'll begin to discern what it is and in what areas you're really wasting your time, and in what areas you could profitably spend your time, how you can invest yourself in order to get a return of eternality, bliss, and knowledge, not only for yourself, but for your family members as well. So when we hear about such topics as we're discussing this morning, we get, first of all, Suddhikaran, our soul becomes purified. We begin to see ourselves not as material, not as temporary, but rather as eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. And we begin to then, things shift. The cargo begins to weigh on the side of the soul and less on the side of the body. And that is an indication that buddhikara, that our intellect is becoming sharpened. We're identifying what is in our best interest. We're identifying ourselves properly, perhaps for the first time in many, many lifetimes. And then everything is shifting in the favor of the soul. And then finally, Ridikaran means that by hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord in the association of realized souls, our affection increases. Tashaiva meraktasha prashitasha hatainasha shadnasha balasha dantashana charashata. In his infancy, the orphan child, Narada Muni, who didn't even know his father in the first place, and whose mother died when he was 5 years old, it is said that he achieved great attachment and affection for Krishna through the association of the Bhaktivedantas. And the cause of this transcendental divine affection for the Lord was his association with the Bhaktivedantas, with the devotees of the Lord. Devotees of the Lord are considered the representatives of the Lord. Acharya Mambigana Navamena Prajasargas Shmitu Chamadana. Wherever you meet or come into contact with the devotee of the Lord, because they're always chanting and hearing, they're always offering their prasadam, they're always worshiping the Lord. The devotees are considered to be representatives of the Lord. There are 5 classes of beings who are considered to represent God, and one must give them all respects under all circumstances and never disrespect them. Mata Devo Bhava. First of all, the mother. The mother is beyond criticism, beyond reproach. Think of it. The mothers give values. Most of us in our infancy spent time with our mothers, not as much with our fathers, but we spent most of our time with our mothers, and they imparted us values. It is said, values are not taught, values are caught. How much self-sacrifice, how much love and consideration, empathy did most of us get from our mothers? Our mothers even taught us language. We listened to our mothers. We heard our mothers talking 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And we learned our language from our mothers. Otherwise, from where comes the term mother tongue? Mother tongue, values we learned from our mothers, nurturing we learned from our mothers, self-worth we learned from our mothers, even language we learned from our mothers. So Mata Deva Bhavan, the mother is considered a representative of God. Secondly, Pitra Deva Bhavan, father represents God. He's not there with us constantly like the mother, but he's out providing the wherewithal to pay the mortgage, to put food on the table. The father supports and the father protects. So in that sense, as a supporter and the protector, he represents God. God is the protector. God is the supporter. Nitya Nityanam Chaitana Shaitanam Ekyo Bharitikama. He supplies all the necessities of life to all of his parts and parcels. Mater Deva Bhavan, Mater Deva, the mother is God. Pitra Deva, the father is God. Acharya Deva, the guru, the God-conscious, saintly person is God. If the mother gives values and the father gives support, the acharya or the guru gives your connection to God. Prabhupada described himself as a transparent via media. Like these glasses, they give me connection with the written words on the page. If I take the glasses off, well, I can still see because it's big, bold print, but nevertheless, the glasses will give you connection to the written pages on the book. I can't read my phone without the glasses. I will say that. So without the glasses, you don't have a connection with the knowledge which are in the books. And what are the words in the books? The books are the spoken words of the writer. And so we have so many scriptures, and we cannot connect with the Lord unless we can read those scriptures and hear the purifying words of the great saints and sages in our heads. So the mother gives values, the father gives support, and the guru gives connection. What's missing? There's a fourth category of living entities who are to be taken as representatives of God. And those are atiti. Titi refers to a unit of time, and atiti is outside. In other words, untimed. Atiti Deva, who comes to your house unannounced, who doesn't call beforehand and say, I'm going to arrive at this and this and this and this time, just shows up at your door. Such an uninvited guest should be treated as God for several reasons. One is you don't know if that guest is not in fact God in disguise. He may be testing you. He may be testing you to see how you're utilizing the house that he gave you, the shelter that he gave you, the facilities that he gave you. We're not meant to keep others out, but we're meant to share what we have. God blesses us so that we can be a blessing to others. If you have a big opulent house and you're loath to receive uninvited guests, to offer them welcome and a sitting place and food, it is said, that house with all of its opulence and all of its grounds, but if it's barred and gated and prohibited from uninvited guests who might need a word of encouragement or a bite of food, it is like a sandalwood tree, which looks very good from the outside, but inside there's a poisonous snake. Within that tree is a poisonous snake. So the people that live in such an opulent house where uninvited guests are not welcome are compared to poisonous snakes. I remember when I was in Israel as a young man working on the kibbutz, one season we had to harvest bananas. So the regular residents, the suburbs of the kibbutz, would take us out into the places where the banana, and they call them hands. It's a big, from one stalk, you get 150 bananas. So what you do is we would put our shoulders into the hands of bananas, and then with the machete, the leader would cut that stalk off from the tree, and then the weight would follow the shoulders, and we take it and throw it in the truck. So we did that all day, every day for several weeks. Now, stories went around that in the heat of the summer, there's a particularly venomous viper called a zephyr in Israel. And to escape the heat, sometimes they crawl in and wind around those hands of bananas. So I don't know if it was just to scare us or whatever, but the permanent residents there would say that every once in a while, you're carrying a hand of bananas and you've disturbed the viper who's getting cooled off from the heat of the sun, and he's right next to your neck. So that would be you'd probably live about 30 seconds after getting if you got bit on the finger or the toe, that would be one thing. It might not be fatal, but if you got bit in the neck. So I never, during the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I never took a hand of bananas, and you take 100 a day without that thought crossing your mind. Is this the one? Is this going to be the one where my ticket gets punched? So a house in which the uninvited guest is not welcome is like a hand of bananas with a poisonous serpent. On the other hand, even a humble house, even a thatched hut, where the uninvited guest is offered a place to sit and a glass of water and some kind words of welcome. You know how involved we get in our day-to-day activities. In fact, just yesterday, there was someone who came to see me, and I was busy catching up from the long weekend, doing the accounts and correspondence, and I hadn't looked at my phone to see text messages. And by the time I looked, he'd arrived at 1. He'd waited for me until 2:30, and then he sent me another text. I'm sorry, I can't wait any longer, and I had to go. So I'd done exactly what I'm telling you not to do. I'd dropped the ball. I'd failed to receive a guest that had showed up unannounced, and I felt very bad about that. At the same time, I'll have to admit there was a part of me that was a little relieved, because the backup of work from the weekend had been weighing upon me, and I wasn't going to get peace of mind until the work was done and I had caught up. So you have that tension between the work that you have to do, but then you have to be able to be detached enough to drop everything and receive a visitor. Because if you don't, you're going to be in danger of being labeled a serpent inside of a sandalwood tree. We want to rather be considered those who have even a simple hut, but they're able to drop what they're doing and with full-hearted attention. The guest should never get a hint that you're inconvenienced by their arrival. I've visited many, many Indian families, most of the time without announcing myself. And to be honest with you, they're amazing. They might have been in the middle of paying their bills for the month. They're doing a project for which they had a deadline at work, but you'd never get even a hint of that from them. They just adjust their attitude and welcome you with a gusto that you would never think that you had interrupted them from any appointment. You would never think they were inconvenient, no matter how inconvenienced they were. And you can count on the fact that an unannounced guest is going to interrupt something, is going to cause inconvenience. You'd never see that. You'd never get a hint of that in the reception that you would receive. It's one of the reasons why I love the Indian community, love the culture, and love the character. It's 8:16. This will be our only discussion of the week. You'll have to wait till next Monday till we actually continue. We didn't really get into the character traits of Maharaj Ambarish, which are 5: divine vision, attachment to Krishna, humility, leadership, and protection. We'll leave that to next Monday's discussion. But we did kind of lay the groundwork for Maharaj Ambarish's character and introduce some interesting facts and figures about him. So hopefully that'll whet your appetite and you'll join us next Monday when we continue this discussion. Thank you, one and all. Let's see who we have here. I have to grab a corner and widen it a little bit so I can read. From the beginning, Jean was the first one to jump on board. Manasaganga, second. Brent, number 3. As I mentioned, we had the Jopathon last Sunday. Brent chanted 40 rounds. Gary Montana, Rakesh and his family, his 2 daughters and his wife, chanted lots and lots of mucho rounds. Thank you. And he's wishing us a happy Krishna conscious New Year. Govinda Dev chanted 50 rounds. I chanted 51. Bobby chanted 54. Jay from Phoenix. Good morning, Jay. Suksma, 7 classes. Yes. In case you weren't with us in the beginning, tomorrow I have to go. I have to be at Springville Junior High School at 7:45 to give the first of 7 classes throughout the day. So I won't be able to give this Bhagavatam class tomorrow. Yogesh and Pragna, Hare Krishna, to shout out to Dallas. Meenakshi Drupadi Devi Dasi sends her dhanyavats and her pranams. Thank you very much for that. Rob, do you have a good word for us today or two?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I may have many more than 2.
All right.
Today, I figure I better make up today for yesterday and tomorrow.
Well, that's you're covering for me. It's my fault, not yours.
All right, here we go. Hanker for devotion until it is compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
Lord Chaitanya came to teach the servant how to preach.
Nice.
To reach liberation, you must have God obsession.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these are definitely better than others.
Yeah, I'll sort through them.
If it is Krishna on which you meditate, it is you he will liberate.
Truer words were never spoken.
Even if you have it all, compared to Krishna, it is very small.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Krishna is producer and director. I am just a lowly actor.
Nice, nice.
Opulence is fleeting. It is Krishna you should be seeking.
I like that. I'm definitely going to use that one. How many is that so far? You've done half a dozen so far.
Oh, I'm not even sure. I haven't been counting. I can't see them all on my phone screen. So this life is just on rent. Serve the Lord cent per cent.
Nice. I like that one.
When humiliation is earned, humility should be learned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Material gain is not the aim. Choose instead the holy name.
I like that. That is sweet.
When life is distressing, it is God's blessing.
Cool.
To be in control is not our role. To go back home, surrender in full.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like all of these.
If you don't take the time, you won't achieve the sublime.
Yep. 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 Yep.
We are an eternal soul. Feel the divine pull and take the servant's role.
Man, you've been busy this morning. Holy cow.
And of course, values are not taught, they're caught.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is word for word what you said.
We have to have that one in. That's mandatory.
And don't be a snake in a tree. Greet the unannounced guest happily.
Don't be like a snake in a tree. I think I'll have to use 90% of these. Well, any more?
That's it.
Wow. Did you count them? Can you do a quick count?
Let's see.
Just out of curiosity.
16.
Whoo! You made more, you did more words than I did.
No problem.
Actually, just out of information, when I give a half an hour talk, when I prepare a half an hour talk, it's under 4,000 words. 3,800 is about ideal for half an hour talk. And these go for 45 minutes. So probably it's about close to 6,000 words each 45-minute session. Just trivia, just FYI. 10 of these talks would be a book. Books are about 60,000 words. FYI. All right. Thanks very much. We're in between the Japathon and another sort of a marathon, which, every year I do this in January. I've been doing it for more than 10 years with this particular teacher, Katie Reese. I have so much respect for teachers after giving 7 back-to-back classes with only a half an hour break for lunch. Honestly, I don't know how teachers do that every single day. I'm going to take a lot of throat lozenges, and they do give me a little microphone to hang around my neck, and I use a PowerPoint, and I try and ask a lot of questions. But we talked about mothers and fathers and gurus. Well, shout out to teachers as well. Shout out to teachers as well. How valuable are teachers in our society, and what a great work they do. So I'm gonna follow in the footsteps of the teachers tomorrow, and it's gonna be grueling. I'm gonna do for one day what teachers do every day, and it's going to be a marathon of its own. So between the Japathon and the Teachathon, thanks very much for taking the time to be with us. We'll be back on the weekend, and then again next Monday with more on the character of the great devotee, Ambarish Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.